How you guys doing? Today I'm going to be covering the reason why you gassing out mid-fight and how to fix it. I just got back from my second session. I did a run and also a kicking session today, so I'm feeling the fatigue. I came to get a little recovery in the sauna room, so I'm feeling the heat. I'm feeling good. And I've just been getting a lot of questions in both the Taekwondo Fury Institution and over social media of, covering how people can increase their gas tank. How can I stop feeling so tired during the fights? And I feel like this is a really good topic for me to cover for myself as well, because I went from in 2023 not being able to keep up with the pace to 2024 being able to push it. And it helped me a lot when I was able to become national champion. So definitely gas tank is in the modern game one of the top things that you need to be working on. And we're just going to be covering some mistakes, some things that you want to avoid, as well as some things that you could implement into your preparation that's going to make you feel a lot better, a lot stronger, and have a lot more stamina in the mats when it matters. So first, I'm going to break down into strength and conditioning, how you should be scheduling it, not only day by day, but also what you should be focused on, as well as how to plug in that strength and conditioning program into your skills training. So making sure that you have enough time during the week to get in both your kicking sesh and your strength and conditioning. So when it comes to strength and conditioning, right now we at just about 2 months out from USAT Nationals. So you got 8 weeks. The good news is that you still have time, but the bad news is if you don't start it right now, it's going to be much harder to develop all of the systems that we're going to be talking about in just a bit. So when you have time out like this from 8 to 12 weeks, you want to be focusing more on aerobic capacity when it comes to conditioning. So when it comes to conditioning, you want to be doing something, in my opinion, that's light on your joints. So I would rather you do a conditioning session on an air bike, or med ball slams, or a rowing machine, or battle ropes, instead of doing my condition purely on sprinting and running. And of course, working on your sprints, working on your runs is definitely a very important thing. But I feel like if it brings you joint pain, or if it brings you fatigue, if it makes your muscles and tendons feel like they're not able to be as elastic as they could, and it bleeds into your skills training, then that's where I cut the line. I say, no, I'd rather do something non-impact. So with 8 weeks out, I want you to be focusing more on an aerobic base. So I'm talking air bike intervals. You can go for 2 minutes on, and 1 minute off, and you can go for 8 to 12 rounds. And during those 2 minutes that you're working, you don't want to look to max out at your highest strength, and then after that, your RPMs are slowly plummeted. You want to go at the highest pace possible that you can maintain for that 2 minutes. So let's say for 2 minutes I could keep up a 75 RPM, then I want to be able to keep up that 75 RPM throughout every single set. So if I'm going for those 8 sets, I want to be making sure that with the 1 minute off I have, I'm catching my breath, I'm doing my breath work, and then when it comes back on work time, I'm hitting that same 75 RPM every single time. Now, when it gets a little bit closer, right, we're 4 weeks out, I want to start moving on from aerobic to anaerobic. So I'm looking at the things that will make me be more explosive, that will allow me to go for those 15-second bursts of multiple kicks without feeling like the blood is rushing out of my legs, or without feeling like I can't keep up and I feel just so gassed and I need to throw 2 more kicks to score, but I can't get it out, I can't get my legs up, right? So the way that you fix that is you focus more on anaerobic power, and that's going to be more like 15 seconds of a high intensity burst. And again, you're going to keep up that same pace for the 15 seconds, and then you get a 45-second rest where you have a lot more rest time than you have work time. But the reason that you have the rest time is so you could rest up all the way, or at least up to 80%, and then you can explode back with that 15 seconds. Again, you're gonna go for 8 to 12 sets for that. So that's gonna be conditioning wise. And me personally, I like to keep conditioning low impact on the joints, and then also I don't like to mix it too much with my skills training. And what I mean by that is I would rather keep my conditioning separate, so then when I come to the skills training, and this requires coordination with both you and your coach, but when it comes to the skills training, I'm focused purely on skill. I'm not focused on, okay, burnout kicking, because we need to work on our cardio. Let's do 1,000 kicks at the end of the session, or 1,000 reps of cut punch crescent, right? I feel like, if you're doing 1,000 reps or you're doing however many reps and it's just focused on, getting your legs up, da 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 da, that's a little bit more old school type of training, and you definitely be able to see benefits. But I feel like by, halfway through those sets or by a quarter way through those sets, I'm feeling the conditioning, right? Which I should be, but because of that, my fatigue is bleeding into the skill that I can put out. So whether that's precision, whether that's explosiveness, whether that's timing, right? I'm focused less on those factors, the ones that matter, and I'm focused more on catching my breath. And if that happens, then I'm putting myself through, I'd say, like 75% reps or 80% reps, where I could be doing 100 and I could be putting in more perfect reps where it's at the perfect speed, the perfect accuracy, the perfect timing, right? And when it comes to skills training, that's what I want to be focusing on. That's why I like to incorporate the conditioning separate. Now, when it comes to weightlifting, right? I want to be focusing with 8 to 12 weeks out more on muscle endurance. So I'm not looking to hit my 1 rep max, right? I want to go a little bit lighter in the weight. I don't want to get too specific, right? Because everybody has their own weight plan according to their 1 rep max. But you do want to be going at a slightly lighter weight for a higher amount of reps. So you want to, for example, right, instead of doing 3 sets of 5 reps at a high weight that you could barely handle, I would rather you, with 8 weeks out, go 4 sets of 15 reps and do it controlled. And then that way you can really build on your muscle endurance, your muscular endurance, right? So that's going to be your ability to keep kicking throughout the match, whether it's hard or soft, without feeling like it's getting gassed out. And that's why I like to pair it with the aerobic training, because again, that's like your buffer. That's like your passive. That's just making sure that you can keep your breath throughout the fight. And then as we get closer from 4 weeks out, then we're going to be focusing more, instead of muscular endurance, we're going to focus on muscular power. So that's going to be a lower amount of reps, higher weight. And then also when you're doing these reps, you're not taking your time as much. You're coming down, and as soon as you hit that point, boom, exploding up. Coming down, exploding up, right? And then for this, I would go more for 5 to 6 reps, because you're really looking to get that full rest in between and then explode. So that's weight training. That's also your conditioning sessions. And then also for the running part, right? I don't like to focus or rely on specifically running for my conditioning, like I said earlier. But I do prefer if I could get a nice run in once to twice a week, and I feel like that doesn't bleed into my strength or conditioning or my skills training. When I'm going on these runs, I don't want to. I love running myself, so I always love just going out, seeing new things. I like to see, the skyline. I like to go run in the park. I like to, just always kind of treat it like a little journey. But then I get carried away. I used to get carried away sometimes. So then it's what was supposed to be a 5K run, it turned into a 20K run, right? And then the next day I'm supposed to come to skills training and perform or spar, but then I'm feeling the fatigue. And then because of that, again, I can't get in the reps. I can't get in the accuracy. And that's what I don't want. So I want to keep these runs 5 to 7K nice and light. You could put it in on your recovery day, which again, I'm going to be talking about in a little bit more specifically about scheduling these sessions. Because like I said earlier, when you're an athlete, right? Whether it's Taekwondo, whether it's basketball, whether it's figure skating, right? Your skills training is the number one thing to do, or number one priority that you must have. So, for example, right, today, let's say, we all have our lives, right? I have a lot of students in the institution as well saying that, Coach Danny, I want to get these training sessions in, but I'm not sure which one I should focus on because I only have, I have to go to school, I have work, I'm not sure when to be doing it, right? So general rule of thumb, you want to make sure the skills training is your top priority. If you can only get 1 session in a day, then that skills training is going to be the only session you get in that day. And then if you do have extra time, that's when you supplement with the conditioning, with the running, with the strength program. If I could take one out, I would take those runs out and I would focus purely on conditioning and the strength program. I feel like that's enough. But if you can, you get all 3 plus the skills training in. And then you also have to be looking at day by day programming. Okay, so let's say that it's a perfect scenario and you're able to get 2 sessions in per day, right? Then preferably, I would get the skills session in the morning because, like I said, you want to be focused on the skills. You want to be making the skills your priority. So I want to have my body nice and fresh. I get the skills session in, and then I do whatever I want to do at night. But for a lot of people, right, for most schools in the States, for most teams in the States, the training is at night. So we get the skills training in at night, and then in the morning, on a Monday, right, I would focus on strength and conditioning. So I would get my weightlifting session in, depending, is it endurance or power? It depends where I am in the camp. And then after that, I would get a aerobic session in or an anaerobic session in on the bike. So I get that nice session in the morning. I have some nice nutrition. I have a little bit of rest if possible, and then I come and I attack that session at night, right? So that's a nice amount of work, a nice 1.5 hour to 2 hours strength program, and then moving into condition, and maybe that takes 20 minutes. So you're spending 2 hours to 2.5 hours in the morning, right? So that's high intensity. You want to keep that same intensity to the nighttime when you go into skills. So then the next day, you're going to be focused on moderate intensity, and you want to be keeping all of these days, both the morning and the afternoon / night session, the same intensity. So then that way you're not working on two different systems in the same day. So for example, right, if you did the high intensity on Monday, right, you don't want to be doing, a light mobility in the morning and then hard training at night. You want to be keeping both of those intensities the same. So like we said, we went through the high intensity strength with the conditioning session on the bike, and then in the nighttime, then you'd go into whether it's high intensity sparring or high intensity repetitions or the amount or volume, right? Then you're gonna be focused more on high intensity. Whereas the next day, right, maybe you move into medium intensity. So in the morning, maybe you just get in like a nice 5-7K, get some stretching in, and then at nighttime you focus more on technique. So it would be like a technical session focused on the angle of your cut, or is your bottom foot moving correctly? Is the trajectory of your kick the right angle so it scores? Then after that, if you have a recovery day or a low intensity day, that would look more like mobility in the morning, and then in the afternoon night session, you focus more on tactical training. So that would be how do I set up a person to make it so that they're coming into me because I want to counter them? Or how do I work on my corner situations where I'm cornered and I need to get out without getting scored on, right? This is more tactical. So you want to be going throughout those sessions throughout the week. You don't want to be going high, and then low. You want to be going maybe medium, high, and then a low intensity session to recover, or a low intensity day to recover. And then you go back to high, medium, low, something like this. So then that way, on the days that you're really working hard, you have the rest from the day before. And then on the medium to low intensity days, that's giving your body a little bit more time to recover. And you also want to be making sure that you prioritize your skills training, like I said earlier, throughout all of these days. So if you have a high intensity day, but you just, something from work or school, it came up, then just make sure that you get that skills session in first before anything. Okay. Now we're going to move on to nutrition around the training and also around your competition, because this is not only the composition of your nutrition, like what you're eating and putting into your body, but also when you're eating it is very important, especially when it comes to performance, especially for athletes. And a lot of the fighters that I work with in the institution, I got like over 150 athletes. I gotta say, like over half of them is asking me, what should I be eating before my training sessions? What should I be eating to lose weight or put on muscle, right? And the other half is asking me, I'm feeling gassed throughout my fights. I feel like, my legs are too heavy. I feel like I'm losing my breath during my matches. What can I do? Which is the reason why I made this video, because I feel like it's not just one straight answer. There's a few different things that all intertwine together. So we covered the strength weight program and the conditioning program, and how to incorporate with the skills, coming up to your competition. And now we're gonna, focus a little bit more on the nutrition that, you have to be making sure that you're eating at the right time and you're eating the right things. So for example, right, a lot of people, they say, oh, I want to cut this weight, and then they just take out all the carbs, they go on a keto diet, and they wonder why they're feeling gassed every single training session. Well, you're only putting out 30% of your actual max, whether that's reps, whether that's technique, whether that's focus, because you're so depleted and drained from having no carbs. So for a combat athlete, and especially for like Taekwondo, where you're using a lot of anaerobic explosiveness, you want to be making sure that you're having carbs, clean carbs, right? You're not having like a fried dough, a fried dumpling, right? We're not having that. We're having some nice white rice. If it's closer to the competition, if we have more time, we want to having like whole wheat bread, whole grain rice, right? You want to be having something with fiber in it so you feel a little bit more full. And you also be wanting to have a medium amount of protein and low amount of fat in your diet. Now, you can have fat, but you don't want to be having it from, greasy, peanut oil. You want to be getting it from good sources. So whether that's avocado or, some nut oils that are very good, also like antioxidants in them, right? You want to be making sure that you're implementing those. And you can also put in more fiber when it's farther out from your competition. So always maybe 1 to 2 hours out before your training, you want to be having that good meal. So when you do train, you feel fueled and you can actually burn more calories in the long run. Now, after the training, you can lower that carb amount so you can save on calories. Just make sure you get that protein in. So you could have, maybe instead of having a full bowl of rice, you have like half a bowl of rice, and then you have that lean protein, like that chicken breast, or some nice steak, or whatever you may prefer, right? For your diet, you put that in, you put the protein in. Then when it comes to competition, this is very different. This is also coming into weight cutting, so I'm going to cover that in just a bit. But before the competition, you want to be making sure that you have all of your nutrition already decided and dialed in. So when it comes to the night before, on the day of weigh-in, when you already weighed in, you want to be making sure that you have a high amount of carbs the night before. White rice, quick digesting. You want to have low fat, low fiber, because you don't want it to fill up your stomach, right? I know firsthand what it feels like to feel bloated during your fight, and that is not what you want to be feeling. You feel gassed, you feel sluggish. And if anyone's ever had a halal combo over rice before a training session, you know what I'm talking about, right? If you had a pork fried rice before a training session, you know what I'm talking about. You feel sluggish. You don't want to be feeling like that. You want to have a high amount of fast digesting carbs, load up on those carbs, have medium protein, low fat, low fiber the night before. Then the day of, you already have what you're going to eat ready. You don't want to be having to search for, what am I going to eat? Am I going to pick up something on the way? I like to get my food that I know is going to be good for me and match my macros for the day for performance the night before. So for me, I love Korean food. I get that nice kalbitang, that nice short rib soup. I make sure I get 2 rices. And I make sure I get extra side dishes because I know there's a lot of sodium in there, and I want to load up on those carbs, load up on that sodium, get that nice broth in me the day of. It's also a nice mental boost because I feel comfortable. It's like a soul food having it on the day of the fight, but it's not going to weigh me down. And then before the fight, before I step in the ring, I want to also make sure that I have the smallest supplements. So I have my vitamins in me. If I'm a coffee drinker, I want to make sure that I have that caffeine in me, whether it's the coffee or a caffeine pill. I could put in some beta alanine. I could put in some electrolytes or sports drink 10 minutes before I get into the ring. Pop a few Swedish fish just for some extra sugar, right? But this is getting a little bit more specific into fight day, and I'll cover that in another video. But basically, you want to make sure that you have your nutrition dialed in and you're eating the right things at the right time so you could perform at your best. And in the long run, whether it's losing weight or it's just performance in itself, you're getting that much more out of each training session. And then that turns into more skill development, and it also helps you, improve at a faster rate. And then also you're fighting at your best fueled self when you come into the ring. Now, when it comes to cutting weight, right? I see a lot of fighters, whether it's just throughout my career or even in the institution, that they say, Coach Danny, I'm trying to cut weight. So like I said, I'm taking out all of the carbs. I'm not drinking water, but I still have 2 weeks out. Or I already cut the weight, but then I just weighed in and I guzzled, a gallon of Gatorade, and then I went out and I had a hamburger, right? These are things that you want to be avoiding. You want to make sure that you have your specific weight cut plan already scheduled out and written down, and you know exactly what to do. So if you are cutting weight for a competition, you want to make sure that you're within 5% of your weight that you're fighting at the fight week of. And I say 5% because not only do you want to reduce the amount of water weight that you cut, because cutting more, being in a dehydrated state, even if you rehydrate well, it's going to affect your performance muscularly, right? And that's going to be a very big thing when it comes to fighting and gassing out, because if you have less muscular endurance, it's going to make you feel tired faster. And I also say 5% because if you go to an international tournament G ranked and you get hit with that random weigh-in and your name pops up on fight day, you want to make sure that even if you ate and drank the night before and rehydrated, you're still within that 5% cutoff. And then from there, then we get into more specifics. So on the fight week, right, you already cut all the weight ahead of time, you're 5% out. If you're fighting 68 you know, you want to be within 71 kilos, just, you know, around there, right? And you got to cut 3 more kilos, right? So then you start water loading, and that's going to be putting your body into a flushing state. So you're having, for example, 2 gallons of water a day for 5 days before the weigh-in. Your body is, you know, sweating a lot more. You're going to the bathroom a lot more. You're losing more water throughout your breath, through your perspiration, right? And you're cutting down on your sodium intake, so no salt. So that means that the salt isn't holding on to that water either. And then maybe the last 2 days you cut out down on the carbs. You don't want to be doing that, you know, a long time before, but you know, if you're just focused on manipulating that weight for a short period of time, you cut out them carbs, cut out that water, cut out that salt, and then on the last day before the weigh-in, that's when you take out all of it. So you're not drinking no more water, you're not eating no more food, your body's in flush mode, and you don't take in anything until you see your weight hit that number. So for example, if I'm fighting 68, I gotta cut weight. I gotta make sure that I lose that weight, whether it's in the sauna suit or whatever it may be, and I can't eat anything. If it's the night before, I can't eat anything until I see that number. Or let me be a little bit more specific. I can't, if I do track how much weight that I lose during the night, I gotta make sure that I can only be that number. So if I know I lose half a kilo, I can only, I can only start eating if I hit 68, or I can only drink a little bit if I hit 68, because I know even if I eat or drink up to 68.5, I'm gonna sleep it off and I'm gonna be 68 the next morning. Hopefully that makes sense, right? And then also you want to make sure that you have your rehydration plan set in. So there's a lot of things that come into rehydrating properly. And again, that's a whole nother topic, a whole nother video that I'll make. But you want to be making sure that you get your hydration in. You're not taking in nothing too processed or too intense, like straight Pedialyte, especially if you cut like 5, 6, 7 kilos. That straight Pedialyte right after you weigh in is going to make you feel acidic, digestive problems, right? So you want to have, you know, your cold water so it gets to the bottom of the stomach fast. You want to have diluted Pedialyte, maybe some digestive enzymes, some probiotics, get your digestive system running again. Then once you feel a little bit better, you start taking in simple carbs like some rice cracker with some honey. Then you feel even better, right? You keep rehydrated. That's when you have your first meal. And your first meal, like I was talking about earlier, is the day before the fight. You want to make sure that you control your urges. You're not jumping over to the Taco Bell. You're not jumping over to the skewer cart, right? You got to make sure that you have something that is really fueling and nutritious and is giving you the right carbs, giving you the right protein, and sodium to refuel, especially after something so hard on your body like a weight cut. So after you have these three main things, right? The strength and conditioning along with the skills training and the regimen of that and how to plan that out so you're getting the most bang for your buck. And you're also focusing on the correct systems at the right time, right? Like, so you have more time out. 8 to 12 weeks, you have more aerobic and endurance, whereas closer to the fight, you're focused more on anaerobic and explosiveness. So you're working on both systems. Then you have the nutrition, what you're eating, not only what, but also when you're eating it. So you can use those carbs that you're going to take in throughout the day, especially if you're cutting more weight. You want to keep those carbs to a minimum, but if you are taking in the carbs, you're having them before the training session so you can stay fueled. And also your competition, your fight week and your fight day nutrition. Then we get into weight cut, making sure that you're cutting your weight correctly. You're doing the right things at the right time. You're not doing anything too unhealthy. You're making the right rehydration decisions on the day of the weigh-in afterwards as well. And then finally, after we have those three things down as like a base, then we need to work on our mental game and getting into the flow state. So if you ever seen like Kobe or MJ and they look like they shoot a shot or they just touch the ball and they go in, they make 20 shots in a row. It looks like they're not even trying, right? And you ask them and they say, oh yeah, I felt like the basket was like this big, right? So this is a little bit more mental game, and I cover this inside the institution as well because I feel like it's so important, whether it's feeling less gas during the fight or feeling more confident or performing at your best. You need to have a strong mental and you need to be able to tap into that flow state. So that comes from a lot of visualization. It comes from a lot of preparation and making sure that you feel like you put in all of the work already. So all you got to focus on fight day is just you performing your best. You're not focused on winning or losing, because if you're focusing on winning, you're worried about what's going to happen if you lose. If you're focusing on not losing, then it's too much pressure on your shoulders and you feel like, oh, I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose, right? You can't focus on actually being you. All you want to do is be you, be the same person that you was on the mats at your own dojang, at your own training system, training school, right? And believe that the work that you put in, the preparation that you put in, the skills, the strength, the conditioning, the nutrition, the weight cut correctly, right? All of that work is your foundation, and you just need to show it on that fight day, right? And then on top of that, you have the visualization of you fighting your opponent, right? You should be doing some image training, some visualization every day, so then that way your brain is already it's already calibrated, it's already used to seeing this situation in imagination. So when you step in a ring, you feel like you already stepped in there 1,000 times, right? These things got to come together, and it's a very small window that you have to get into to tap into that flow state. But once you get into it, that's going to let you flow, literally flow throughout all of your kicks, all of your techniques, all of your decision making. And because you're not stuck feeling nervous and anxious, your body's exerting less wasted energy, and that's gonna translate into you feeling less gassed throughout the fight. And also, one thing to keep in mind is feeling nervous and anxious and feeling excitement is the same exact thing chemically inside your brain. It's been proven. The only thing that makes a difference in between the two is how you feel about it. So if you feel good about the competition and you've put in the work and you feel like you put in the visualization and you're prepared, then you're going to feel excited. Whereas if you feel like you're not ready for the competition, you didn't get prepared, you didn't put in the work, you didn't dial in on your nutrition, you didn't dial in on your strength and conditioning, you didn't dial in on your game plan, then when you step into nationals in 2 weeks or 2 months, right? Then that's why it's going to make you feel nervous. And then on top of you not being prepared and not working down on everything that's needed to have a good gas tank, you're nervous on top of that. That means that's the recipe for you feeling like I kicked 3 kicks after the first round. I feel like I can't get my legs up. I feel like I can't breathe. I feel like I can't think of anything, right? Those are the reasons. It's all compiling. So that's why I said earlier, it's not just one thing. It's kind of like this web that you need to put together as an athlete, as a responsible athlete, in order to perform at your absolute best. And I have, I have gone through this myself in 2023 when I was trying to fight. I had so much heart and I was just trying to go out there and fight, but I didn't have everything dialed in. I didn't have my strength and conditioning or my nutrition or my weight cut or my game plan dialed in. So then that's why, even though I trained hard, I felt gassed at nationals. I couldn't kick my best and I underperformed, right? Whereas 2024, the next year comes around, I was able to put all of these things together, and that's when it really started clicking for me. And same thing for my students in the institution as well. Once they started implementing these different systems, depending on what problems that they have themselves, I've seen tremendous improvement in each and every one of them. And I believe that that's because we're not just guessing and we're not just hoping and we're not just saying, oh, you want a better roundhouse kick, then you got to do this, or you got to do this, or you want better conditioning, you got to make sure you run a lot, right? I'm just guessing and grabbing for stuff at that point. I got to make sure that I have like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I got to make sure that I have, okay, I'm in week 8, what should I be focused on? I'm in week 6, what should I be focused on? I'm a week out from the competition. Do I have all the nutrients and the food that I'm going to be eating already planned out? Do I have, my meal for the next day, the day of fight day, really important already, with me, so I don't have to, go out of my way, right? These are all things in preparation that you need to be doing. And if you do them systematically, then there's no way that you won't see better performance in your game. So, I know I went on a long ramble today, but I love breaking down all of these different topics. I learn more about the sport as I'm, just going through this and answering questions as well. So make sure if you have any other specific topics you want me to cover, leave it in the comments. And then I hope everyone is, like I said, getting ready for nationals. I know AAU is coming up in less than a month. We got USAT in 2 months, as well as AAU team trials, and a bunch of opens after that. So make sure that whatever problem you have, you assess that, and then you put in the proper preparation that's needed in order to improve. So then that way you see that improvement. All right, guys. So I'm dying. I'm sweating here in the sauna. I feel a little bit better from all of the fatigue, and I'm about to go get some rest. So I hope everyone has a good night, and then make sure you put in that work in tomorrow too.